Hey you, yes you. The odds of you not being subscribed to the channel are very high, so if you haven't already, it would mean the world if you'd subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew to help me go full time. Hope you all enjoy this one. Woods out. There were many moves made over the NBA offseason, but the one I was definitely the most interested in was Chris Paul to the Suns. Not only was CP3 able to revive his career with the Oklahoma City Thunder, but he also showed that he can be a piece that wills a team to the playoffs. I mean, the man just did it last year with an average Thunder team, which is what makes the Phoenix Suns so scary because they already have the talent. As long as Devin Booker has been in the league with the Suns, it has seemed like they just needed that one more piece to get over the hump and make a playoff push, or even much more. Good news for Suns fans, it looks like they may have finally gotten that piece. But before we get into the video, let me just say, like I've had to in the past few videos, this is still a very small sample size that we've seen from the Suns, and I completely understand that. I just think that it is very fun to talk about what could happen with a wildcard team like the Suns this year, even though we don't have much to go off yet. Also, before we get into the video, it would be absolutely clutch if you could hit that like button below because it really does help the channel grow in a big way. But let's just get right into the Suns and what we have seen so far. I feel like when the season started last year for the Suns, there was the same sense of optimism when they started out with the exact same record, 5-2. But shortly after, everyone realized that it was just another fantasy because the Suns proceeded to have a far from good rest of the season. But they were able to turn it around in the bubble in a big way. You guys all know the legendary bubble Suns by now, and I know there have been plenty of videos on it already, so I'm not going to go too in depth with it. But the bubble might have been the best thing that has happened to the Suns since who knows when, because the NBA bubble gave the Suns an opportunity that they needed so badly, a reset. No fans, no pressure for the young and inexperienced players, and nothing to lose, literally nothing. And it's safe to say that the Suns took advantage of this big time when they went 8-0 and still didn't even make the playoffs. Even though Phoenix unfortunately had to leave the bubble early, they were able to leave with confidence because everything that was their fate in the bubble, they won. And they were looking like they had some serious promise coming into the 2021 season. And on top of all that, they go out and get what this team needs so desperately, a crafty guard who leads to wins. Don't get me wrong, I like Ricky Rubio. In fact, I think he is one of the best passing guards in the league, being a Timberwolves fan that has watched him for years. But let's get real, Ricky Rubio does not lead to wins, and I know that firsthand as a Timberwolves fan. Chris Paul is just on another level, and it might just put the Suns over the top to win. Well, potentially, if a few things go their way. But let's just dive right into the facts and stats that make the Suns not only a guaranteed playoff team, but maybe even a chance to make it to the Western Conference Finals or further this year. It's no secret that adding future Hall of Famer Chris Paul immediately raised both the Suns' ceiling and floor. What Chris Paul lends is the definition of steady and consistent hand at point guard, who can step up when needed, but also lets his teammates do their thing, as well as having one of the highest basketball IQs in NBA history. And if you think this is an exaggeration, why don't you just listen to this wild story from last year? That is just one of many that proves Chris Paul has the best IQ in the league by far. Last year, the Timberwolves led the Oklahoma City Thunder 121-119 with less than 2 seconds remaining in the game, and OKC was out of timeouts. Karl Anthony Towns was about to shoot his second free throw and the game was basically over. Well, until Chris Paul made a big brain play that is just absurd to this day. Chris Paul pointed out that Jordan Bell of the Wolves had just checked in with an untucked jersey, and the refs called a delay of game violation on the Wolves. This resulted in a technical foul because it was Minnesota's second violation of the game, and Chris Paul knew that. Danilo Gallinari made his technical free throw and Towns connected on a second attempt, even though he tried to miss, which sent the game into OT, and the Thunder ended up winning. If that's not willing a team to the playoffs, I don't know what is. But back to CP3 and the Suns. Chris Paul has definitely eased some of the ball handling responsibilities Devin Booker has handled up until this point. Pairing Paul with Booker gives the Suns two of the most elite shot takers and makers in the league right now, plus two options that have proven they can close out games no matter who they're going up against. The part that's scary for the NBA is that Chris Paul has gotten off to a slow start, just shooting 33.3% from 3 and 44.1% from the mid-range. But keeping the Suns' success so far this season in mind, it's surprising that D-Book CP3 duo hasn't played all that well together. But the fact is, the lineups that include one of the star guards and not the other one are doing very well, to say the least, which is a big reason the Suns are off to such a hot start. best. And the crazy part is, Devin Booker and Chris Paul are both shooting and scoring at rates lower than we've ever seen from them in the past few years. But I believe those numbers will most definitely tick back up at some point very soon. But what truly makes the Suns such a dangerous team is that Paul and Booker are surrounded by knockdown shooters and an elite defense that most definitely is not talked about enough. Saying that the Suns have a plethora of 3-and-D guys is an understatement. Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Jay Crowder can all guard multiple positions and provide great spacing for CP3 to thrive in the pick and roll game that he loves so much, and for Devin Booker isolation or post-ups. Mikal Bridges has especially taken a solid leap this season because my man is averaging 14.1 points a game, 5.6 boards, and he's shooting 46.3% from the 3, as well as the fact that he only has 1 turnover in 7 games, which is very good for him to say the least. Mikal Bridges is undoubtedly one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA at this moment, which makes his growth as a player on both ends even more fun to watch. He can completely wreck opposing teams' offense sets single-handedly and is one of the hardest guys to score on in isolation. That's facts. Another player who has greatly improved their game on the defensive side of the ball is the big man we were all hoping to take a leap this year for the Suns. I'm talking about Deandre Ayton. So far, Ayton's play has been a perfect fit offensively with Chris Paul and D-Book. There is still a lot of untapped potential when it comes to Ayton, but it finally looks like he is heading in the right direction, which is great news for all fans in Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton's ability to shoot the ball at solid levels gives the Suns even more spacing, which is why I believe they could be so lethal against teams in the West in the 2021 playoffs. Ayton's growth throughout the season will be something to look out for because it could be the determining factor in just how good the Suns team can really be. But overall, the rest of the Suns squad is just a group of playable guys who were either overlooked or flat out didn't work in other places. Langston Galloway is an elite shooter who was picked up for cheap. Javon Carter has struggled offensively, but his defense has been good as ever. Cameron Payne is resurging as we speak, making all the people who hated on the Suns for picking him look like fools, because my man is draining threes at a high percentage while also running the offense when CP3 is on the bench. Dario Saric has also been another player on the Suns that is pretty fun to watch this year, which is actually a bit surprising to me. When he was in Minnesota and I really watched his game, I wasn't a big fan. But like I said, most of these players just weren't a good fit with the teams they were previously on. But Dario is providing added playmaking to an already great passing team, which is just perfect for them. I believe that the Suns are 100% forming a dynasty in culture right before our eyes, specifically a defensive one. As of right now, they have a 104.4 defensive rating, which ranks 3rd best in the league. They are also currently 4th in net rating, so they definitely dig in on defense and play athletes that are not afraid to get physical. The Suns offense is 12th best with a 110.7 offensive rating, but for sure still has room for improvement. Everyone has seen it. The lineups with Paul and Booker have struggled so far, but regardless, the Suns seem to understand how they want to play, coming in with the 2nd slowest pace. But even though the season is still young, the Suns are showing signs that they are a legitimate contender. With talent and proper roster construction, they could finish in the top 10 both in offensive and defensive rating by the end of the season. So let me just say, as this offense and defense gets more familiar with each other and begins to click, expect them to improve. There's no doubt there is a lot to be excited about in Phoenix, but who or what might push them over the top, we don't know yet. Between Paul, Booker, Ayton, Bridges, and more, it will be interesting to see who steps up, but I guess all we can do is sit back and watch this unfold. I want to hear from you guys below. How many of these Suns players do you think will be all-stars this year, and what seed do you think they will be at the end of the season? The way I see it, if D-Book and Chris Paul aren't both all-stars this year, the league messed up big time. Could we see Ayton in there? Maybe, but as of right now, don't count on it. With all that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, it would literally be clutch if you could subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew, as well as leaving a like down below. That's legitimately all it takes for me to go full time, but regardless, I appreciate all you guys still watching. I'll catch you all on the next one. Woods out.